I'm cruising.
And welcome to Finance and Governance for Weymouth Town Council. Welcome to committee members and members of the public. We're here and grant application and we are live on YouTube for those watching. The meeting is being streamed live in entirety. I'll ask you to bear in mind when you're speaking. Thank you. And welcome to Finance I'm used to looking for you. Fred, do we have any apologies? Okay. So we've got no apologies. Can members just prove that? Just for completeness, who raise their hands? All those in favour?
It's a stupid resolution.
It is, yeah.
Oh, Cheryl, we have.
Unanimous. We all agree.
We're all agree.
We're all here. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Legg.
I don't say. The citizen advice grant application, a non-pecuniary interest.
Because you're representative on Dorset Council Board.
Because I'm the lead councillor from Dorset Council.
Okay, thank you. Duly noted. Councillor Weller.
The grant application from Weymouth Museum, I'm on the Board of Trustees.
Thank you.
Shall I? As the paper says, for both of you.
Duly noted. Thank you. Minutes of the last meeting. Anybody got any points to minutes? Can I sign with a true record? Okay, I'll do it later. Thank you. Item 5, councillor questions. Do we have any pre-notified prayer? No. Any councillors want to ask me questions at this stage? No. Okay. And public questions for Anna. Do we have any pre-notified? I guess everybody else who is here from the public will be into grant applications. Okay, so we're going straight into item 7. We have representatives from the 4 grant applications here this evening, so I'll ask them to speak at the appropriate time. First one up is Steps Club for Young People application. And I'll ask Tony Clark to introduce.
Thank you, Chairman. We are lucky tonight in that all the applications before you councillors have a representative in the room who will be able to respond to any questions you may have and add additional detail to the applications. I shan't be going through the applications in detail. You've had the forms, which I know you've read, and also there is detail within the agenda document itself. So to start, you have an application in front of you from Steps Youth Club for Young People for a 6-month healthy lifestyle project. This is a new project, as indicated, lasting 6 months, that's going to support young people in making healthy choices, lead active and healthy lifestyles, experience and bring about healthy interactions and relationships, and to cope with any mental health challenges they might be experiencing. The total cost of the project is just over £3,200. And the application amount is for £2,368.86. Just to remind you, councillors, that the policy has recently been changed and the upper limit is now £3,000. So you will start to see applications of over £2,000 come before you. We are joined in the room by Raj,
Yeah.
I can't, Lihav, and you are the chairman of SEPS
That's right.
Youth Club. So
Welcome.
I'm happy to respond to any questions members may have, and we also have some expertise in the room. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Hope, to kick us off.
Thank you very much, Chair. I should have made a non-pecuniary declaration here. We've all hoped through with the bottom lines have already part-funded this application to £850, but it is a non-pecuniary interest.
Okay, duly noted. Anybody else? Raj, would you like to say something on in support of the application? Are you here? Okay, now.
Just, I mean, it's all there. I'm standing in for Tom Lane.
Yes.
Work a bit away. I think most of you know where Steps is. It's Chickwell Road. You know, a charitable organisation that works with young people, predominantly in the 11 to 19 age range. Well, put it simply, we provide young people somewhere to go, something to do, and someone to talk to, really, in very simple terms. And we work with young people, probably from the Western area, but 99% of our young people are from Weymouth. And they have a whole range of issues. Health is increasing importance, and certainly since the pandemic, that suggests that people's health, particularly the mental health, has suffered. And there are more issues people are experiencing. And help, the project over 6 months. It's a sort of an initial project that will hopefully lead to a long-term project, and that we're targeting. We hope to, target 75 young people throughout the 6 months, and do a range of things with them, physical activities to eating habits, looking at issues of health, of drugs, alcohol, etc. And we hopefully, as a result of it, the ultimate aim is that they'll be healthier and making less demands on other services, particularly health services. And the other thing I should add, that we are fortunate that we also have a contribution of £800 from Lions towards the project as well. So we're asking for the whole amount. I'm very grateful that Lions has already committed to £10.
Thank you much. Councillor Robbie.
Thank you. I fully support this. I'm delighted to see their current subscription sessions where nobody's turned away because they can't afford it. I think Tom Lane and his team do an excellent job. I've known Tom since long before I came to Weymouth 30 years ago, so he is an excellent youth worker, and you deserve all the support you can get.
Thank you, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to ask you, Raj, whether you were who you were in touch with within the local authorities in order to get hold of the right 75 people that you're trying to aim for. And are you working closely with the lag that is set up for the Chesil area, that we've got all those teams working together that might be obviously of value to you in helping get that sorted out?
Yeah, I mean, a key part is working closely in partnership with others. I know Tom Lane does work with the council, Rachel Genoway. Working closely with. I don't know specifically about that, but I know as part of the initiative, Tom will be using other services to address some issues as well, and their expertise.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I think it's also that you ought to be asking them what they actually need, because you can actually contribute to what they're trying to achieve right across the town with all the young people anyway.
Okay, that's fair.
Thank you.
Councillor Houghton.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much, Laura, for attending the meeting. Fully support this work. Can you explain, is this a new project or have similar initiatives happened before?
I mean, obviously, Steps would have done work around health issues, but this is something new that's going to be we can't do work, one session a week over 6 months that specifically focus on these issues. So, what we may do young people are vulnerable or at risk.
Thank you. Yeah, Chair, I'd just like to wholeheartedly support this project. We know that young people's mental health is under incredible pressure.
Duly noted, councillor Hamilton. Councillor Lambert.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome this this grant application for Steps. It is an excellent organisation. One of not very many in Weymouth, I think, in terms of giving direct help to young people. My question is around the number of people you intend to help, which is 70. Is that being chosen because that's the number that fits in with the money, or the amount of demand that you're experiencing? I mean, could you be, if you had more money, would you be put that up to 140 or 200 or whatever? Because I'm sure there's the demand out there in Weymouth.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously you could do more resources than you have. But I think Tom's based it on his experience of what he thinks realistic and achievable, because you can't have too many in a session if you're going to do effective work. You've got to have a working number, and you can, each session give them that individual attention they need. So I think it's based on experience, what he thinks realistic. And obviously, we said it's a 6-month project. We obviously thought if it's successful and we're successful with another trip that Tom has in mind, we will want to work with more young people. But if we had more resources, obviously we could do more work. I mean, this is 1 hour, one session a week for 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm not sure I answered the question, but it's a really great question. I think I would urge you to gather the evidence if the grant's successful, gather the evidence so that you can. It's sort of linked to Councillor the previous question from Councillor Harris about what's the demand. So gather the evidence, and then because this is obviously a one-off grant, you're going to need to get this evidence to get other sources of funding in the future. I'm going to need to give the last word to Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I wholeheartedly support this, but I think 1 or 2 councillors have thought of organisations who would be useful to feed into Tom, and I would just urge that I can think of a couple that I'm working with our looked after children, for example. So I think I would urge each of us to get in touch with Tom, so we can do a little bit of networking on so that we can really make best use of this project and develop it further, because it will be ongoing work. Thanks very much, Chair.
I think we'll go to the vote. So this is application A. All those in favour? Sorry, yes, thank you very much. Can I have a proposal first? Councillor Legg, seconded by Councillor Frost. All those in favour? Unanimous.
12 unanimous, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on. Second application B is from the Citizens Advice Bureau. Yes, thank you. Right, if you don't want to stay for this, what will be a riveting session. Congratulations. I think the office will be in touch about the check.
Thank you very much. And just so if anyone of you wishes to come and visit the project,
We'll capture that in the minutes. There's an invitation from Steps to town councillors to go and visit. I think that will be welcome. Thank you. Well done.
thank you very much.
Okay. We have Charles here from Citizens Advice. I think this is your second time here, but you've been before. Yeah, welcome. Town Council, Judy.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, members, you have the form in front of you and a synopsis within the agenda. I know we don't have to talk to anyone in the room about the cost of living crisis that we're currently facing, not just in Weymouth, but across the country. And I know the other thing we probably don't need to talk about is the excellent job that Citizens Advice do in Weymouth, supporting local people, informing local people and educating people. The council has given grants to Citizens Advice before. This is the first and only one for this year. This is for a 6-month project to run during the winter and spring to really up the level of awareness and help them get the word out even more on the help that's available to local people who are experiencing hardship through the cost of living crisis. But it will also involve some monitoring and reporting on the impact of the cost of living crisis on local residents that will in turn be shared with other services to help inform them. So it's not just providing that primary advice, support, and guidance, but it's providing the information and statistics to help other services improve and underpin their delivery. I won't talk anymore, Chairman. Happy to answer any process questions, but as you said, we do have Sean Alvis from Citizens Advice with us today.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you very much, Chair. And a question maybe that Sean might be able to answer. Because I see within the grant application, point 17, about funding from additional bodies, and I think none has been sought. And I'm wondering if that's because none's been awarded after an application, or if none has actually just been asked on, and Weymouth Town Council being asked to fund the whole project. And it's sort of a two-part question, this, because what I would like to know is how much of the £2,998, what percentage of that is going into writing the report on and gathering the evidence for that report on the cost of living crisis? Because I think the information that comes out of that will be more beneficial to some of our agency partners than it will be the town council. And I'm thinking maybe they should be part funding this to support it. I don't think the whole lot should come from the town council. That side, I do support the application, and I think this is one thing that Weymouth Town Council can do to support its residents during a very difficult time.
Sean, that's an easy question to start with. It's split between what you spend on the advice itself and writing the report, if you can, if there is an answer.
I'm afraid I can't give you the exact percentage of what that will spend. I can certainly find out to you, but I think what we recognise is that yes, we are asking Weymouth Town Council to stop and fund it. And the purpose of that is because we recognise that in and around Weymouth we have some HME-type wards. We know that the cost of living crisis is fortunately impacting those wards. The project is more of a kind of two-pronged approach. It's not just the gathering of evidence, but it's also going out into the community and offering briefings on the cost of living crisis, showing people where to access information, what grants are available to local people, supporting local people into then further accessing our service so that they can have help find those grants that can support them during the responsibility period. So part of the project is actually to be present in Weymouth as a community, delivering those briefings to frontline partners as well, so that information can then be further cascaded. So I think that's really our direct link to how we're benefiting Weymouth Town Council. Your sort of aim was that the Weymouth, because we want to be particularly present in council and community, so above and beyond the work that we're doing for raising awareness. I hope that answers all elements. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. He's not convinced. Okay. Any other questions for Sean?
Yeah, I run an over 50s club in the Park Community Centre, which should now be called the Park over 70s club, because they've all been with us for 20 years, and they're all very concerned about where their heating and their lighting's coming from, and I'm pleased to say that something's coming from CAB. It's you, is it? Right, well, it's come to talk to us next in a fortnight's time And I spoke to everybody today and they can't wait to see you. I think you're going to bring a large pack because you're going to have a lot of questions, a lot of referrals. And I think it's an excellent idea to get out into the community where they won't come to you, but if you come to us, I'm sure they will have you helping them the best they you can. So I fully support it.
Councillor Watley. I've got a couple of questions, Sean. A two-part question, really building on something Councillor Hope said. Page 8 of the report, councillors, that filled me with a lot of confidence, the list of other town and parish councils that have supported Citizens of Life here over a number of years, so good track record. I suppose it would be remiss of me not to say, as I always say at least, it's a little bit of a shame that Dorset Council are not on that list. And the reason is going back to the reason that Councillor Hope said, which is the data that you collect is probably really valuable to Dorset Council. So my advice is, next time if you want to do further projects, at least ask them for a contribution to, if they want a copy of the report, perhaps they'd like to stamp up 500 quid or something for the data, because that will inform their Stronger Neighbourhoods programme, you know, the in-season deprivation, all those sorts of things that, you know, need intelligence on. So don't be afraid to ask. There's plenty of Dorset councils in the room. So.
Thank you. I will certainly take that down.
And the other question, sort of building on what Councillor Watley said, do you offer a service where you go out to lots of community centres or groups? Is that something you offer?
We primarily do that kind of service through partnership working, where we are talking directly with, I suppose, on the level of service management of other organisations in the area, where we try to contribute to each other's team meetings and things.
Right.
That's how we do it. Unfortunately, what that does mean for us as service managers is that is a pull on our time.
Yes.
That means we are very limited in how often we can do that. So I'm hoping that what this does for us means that we have some dedicated time to go out and actually access those groups in that 6-month period to make sure we're covering the community in a slightly more wider sense. And I think we're able to under our core work.
So councillors have got a group or in their wards, they contact you and you'll see if you can fit them in.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we have proposed in our bid as well that we would also be offering one of these sessions to town councils, Weymouth town councils, specifically so that then the advice that we give into them would also be tracking this through that route.
We're all going to need help paying electricity. Can I have a proposal for this? Councillor Hull, seconded by Councillor Harris. All those in favour?
1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Is that right? Have we got one person? Right, 11.
All those against? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Sean. Don't feel you have to stay. It's riveted stuff, but I'm sure you've got better things to do.
It's been a very long day, which is absolutely massive.
Yes.
Thank you for everybody, and of course,
Thank you for coming.
as well. The first session of the really important.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, next up is Weymouth Museum Trust, and I'll hand over to Town Clerk to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Again, councillors, you have some detail in your agenda of the full applications form part of your agenda pack. As you're aware, Weymouth Museum Trust have moved to a pop-up shop in the town centre. And because it's a reduced offer in a smaller space, they're not currently charging for their services or entry to the pop-up this year. This obviously has an impact on their income. And what they'd like to do is encourage more people to attend the pop-up shop, run workshops and encourage them to co-curate the museum items. There is a lottery bid in from the Museum Trust for a community engagement officer. This is a part-time post, and they're also seeking some funds to increase the amount of time the community engagement officer has working with them. They want to extend their offering to the families of Weymouth, particularly during the school holidays, and support people Weymouth, getting out and about, improving their mental health, as well as educating them on the local town. So the entire project cost is £16,000, and the application amount is £2,500. And we do have Marcia Heedon with us today, who will be available to answer any specific questions. But as always, I'm available to offer any advice on the process, Chair.
Thank you, Marcia. Chair. Councillors, any questions on this? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Again, just a quick question, really. Obviously, I think in the grant application, it says this year that the museum has felt that they couldn't ask for £2 contribution to look at the exhibits. And I'm just wondering, really, with that, with the new premises, have they had an increased footfall? And have they still been collecting or requesting a suggested donation to help bridge that gap? And if so, what has been the difference in the financial revenue? Because I'm just wondering, if within the shop they've had additional footfall being in the town centre than they previously would have had, and sort of donation levels match what would have been ticket entry, you know, what is the requirement for this funding to deliver the project? That being said, though, I do support the application, and I think it's brilliant how they're looking to work with all sorts of different people to bring them into the museum and do different things, and especially pleased to see the dementia group being mentioned in there also.
Right, footfall is down on what we had on the Brewers Quay, considerably down on what we had. Sorry, take it back. Footfall is down on what we had on the Brewers Quay, considerably down, and therefore that has affected our income. Over in Brewers Quay, over a summer, we would expect to get about 6,000 people, which would give us £12,000 worth of income. We, on donations, so far, we have had 2,820. And so we are facing a considerable financial difficulty.
Hence the
grant, yes, because we are using all of our reserves.
Yes.
And we will have nothing, and we will need, obviously, we need a reserve because we have to move back eventually into Brewers Quay and fit it out inside.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I see that there's the project cost is 16,000.
Yes.
You're confident of getting the rest of the money if we stump up our contribution, are you?
Well, yes, because the lottery bid is there. We have 99,000 from the lottery, although the vast majority of that is being spent on storage at the Granby, because that's where our 20,000 artifacts are being stored. But we are confident that with taking our reserves, we can do it. But I suspect if we're 2,500 short, we should have to cut our coat accordingly.
Marcia, do you have a view as to why the football's so high, given that there's more people in the town? Is there, obviously it's less attractive given it?
Yes, I think that people come into the shop and, you know, they'll drop £1 or £2. The American tourists will drop money in there, but we have had, if you looked at the proportion of American tourists we've had this time, it is significantly lower, partly because the cruise ships are operating on a reduced capacity.
No, that's cool.
And so that's one of the things that is affecting it. And I think that being in the town too, it has its advantages where we are, great advantages, but it is a small museum.
Yes.
And people look at it and think, is it worth going in there? It's only a shop.
Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I ask how much it's costing you to store your collection at the Granby?
Yeah, 75,000
Per annum?
per annum. No, actually, that's over the 18 months, 75,000.
And who is the landlord?
Direct removals, and that was the cheapest we could get. We were offered one at 125,000. We were offered all sorts of things which ran in 80 and 90,000.
So how many square feet have you?
Oh gosh, you've asked me a good question. I couldn't possibly tell you how many square feet it is. We have a whole room which I would imagine is probably twice this size.
But bearing in mind the future of the brewery site, which seems to be somewhat unknown and has been for a long time. I mean, this could be a long-term liability. It's an awful lot of money.
It is an enormous amount of money, but the option is we don't have a museum.
No, I understand that. But rather than that, to keep that.
In 15 months, and I've been talking to the developer on a fairly regular basis. In fact, I've looked at
Good answers.
That's a cost of, say, after that, 32,500. We'd be quite happy to make available to churches and cemetery, wouldn't we? It's about time we found good use for them.
It's a great question, Graham. So do you need sort of atmospheric control?
Yes. It has to be under atmospheric control and humidity, all of those factors, and light control. We did ask Weymouth Council, and very kindly you provided us with some storage for our computers for a short length of time. But the answer was we didn't have the facility of that size. You know, 20,000 artifacts, many of which are very large. Things like the bathing machine, George III's bath, the old mural that used to be in the post office, numerous boards from schools, and ours is all on racking. It's jam-packed really tightly, and it's all on racking up there as well.
Let's hope for 15 months then.
Yeah, such, believe you me, yes, we're hoping for it, with fingers and toes crossed.
Any other questions? I'm going to ask Councillor Harris or Councillor Lowe, given that you're involved, do the museum job, to say anything in support?
No, I think that last year has actually told you very clearly the difficulties that we have as a museum. But our hope that, you know, the development of Brewers Quay is going on as planned. We're much more confident about that than we have been of any of the other previous owners. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed. But the National Lottery is, you know, keeping a close guiding hand with us. So we hope very much that we'll be able to, you know, get back into Brewers Quay when the time comes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask just one thing from the emails here. I wondered, given on page 3, you've got £500 hire for dementia workshop.
Yes.
I wondered whether you'd ask the town council, because we don't always have this room available, but
No, I never thought to do that, to be absolutely honest.
that would.
Yes, it would. That would be helpful.
Yes, so I'll leave that with you 2
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
It might not be possible, because
No, but
it might be.
Yeah.
It might be, save you a bit of money. So can I have a proposer for this grant application, please? Councillor Huckle, seconded by Councillor Frost. All those in favour?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All those against? And abstentions? 3. Congratulations, Alison.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Much appreciated.
The office will be in touch, and
Yeah.
don't feel the need to stay for the rest of the interesting things.
By the councils as well.
Close to you. Moving on, application D, the fourth one is life education in Wessex and Thames Valley. I'm going to ask the town clerk to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall this item from the last meeting of Finance and Governance held on the 20th of July, where this application was deferred pending a further discussion with a representative from Life Education Wessex and Thames Valley, particularly around the choice of schools, how the organisation intends to target support in areas of need, and also some clarification around funding not being for core curriculum delivery, and that the funding is a one-off. You'll note that the form is the same as the one that was tabled at the last meeting. Total project cost is 5,400. And the application amount is for £2,115. And we're joined tonight by Lynn Clements from Life Education, who can respond to any questions you may have, Chair.
Welcome.
Sorry, actually, it's Jeanette, but that's fine. It's fine. Jeanette McPhail.
Tonight, you
I can be Lynn. I can be anybody. I can be John.
welcome.
Thank you.
Councillors, any questions on the application, because it was deferred from the last MG. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you. Does the project have the support of adult social care and children's services at Dorset Council?
Well, Life Education has been delivering workshops into schools for very many years, over 30 years. We work with the schools, we work with local schools, so we don't seek permission from adult or children's services. So we work with the schools, but we don't have to seek permission to work with the schools.
Not even if they're in the local education authority.
No, we approach the schools direct, and we have been
They
doing,
will me to do that.
yeah, and we have been doing that, say, for over 30 years. A lot of people may know us as we were the Life Education mobile classroom that's been going to schools for many years. So we deliver the workshops. I think one of the questions was, is this core curriculum? Obviously, the schools have to deliver a PSHE curriculum to the children, but the workshops that we deliver into schools, they enhance everything that the schools do. And I think with the STEPS project, you all heard about, you know, the need for health, well-being and emotional support for children, which is obviously highlighted since COVID. So that's what our educators are trained, and what they deliver, the teachers can't deliver, because the teachers don't have time to learn our specific workshops. So it's an enhancement to whatever is taught into schools, and so we help empower the children to make hopefully healthy choices for themselves. So it's, you know, it's across the board. So it's healthy eating, exercise. It helps them to learn how to be good friends, you know, relationships, and then hopefully it gives them the knowledge and the skills to avoid risky behaviours, and that could be smoking, drinking, drugs, whatever, but also be kind to people. You know, so we're dealing with children who are aged 3 to 11. So it's hopefully, you know, embedding those skills, giving them the knowledge, skills, and the self-confidence to make healthy decisions for themselves.
Thank you. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, a question from Town Clerk on policy on this. I see one of the dates is a historical date, only just now, 26 for 2 days, that was Monday and Tuesday. Are we able to fund activities that have happened in the past?
No, for part of the policy is that activities can only be funded in the future. Sorry, Chair, I hadn't spotted that we just tipped over into that after the 26th of the 9th date, but you can see up on your screen St Nicholas and St Lawrence.
Because it was delayed from the previous application.
Okay. So with that in mind, goes on to my next question. And like I said, I was at the last meeting. I'm young enough to remember this programme with education and the Gerald draft coming into school. And I'm just wondering, obviously we've got 3 schools here listed, and were they just listed because they are the 3 primary schools that are being visited in this term? And we'll at Weymouth schools have the opportunity in the spring and summer term to see this, because again, that might influence members' decision in, if we are going to award any funding this evening, how much, because we may be able to, I believe it's in our power to still award the full amount to subsidise potentially another school in the spring term if required.
Yes, it's a short answer. So you're right. I mean, because of the timing of applications and things, we can only apply for something that's in the future. and we are visiting schools throughout the year. So there will be other there will be hopefully other visits to Weymouth schools. I mean, I was talking with a colleague this morning, and we'll be contacting St Augustine. We've already got dates, sort of provisional dates for various visits coming up. So the short answer is yes. We visit schools throughout the whole area all through the year. And it's just that you have to base an application on something specific. So this is why these 3 schools, because they were coming up in the autumn term.
That's all right, I'll come back.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm obviously glad to hear that other Weymouth schools will be benefiting from this programme. The second thing goes back to the fact the question that was asked earlier around working with Dorset Council and the Education Authority. And I'm just wondering do they have similar requests for funding to support the charity, bearing in mind they are delivering things against the curriculum and in Dorset Council schools. And I was, if you're not talking to them to get permission to go into the schools, because I've dealt directly with the schools, I would hope that we still be talking to them to try and seek some sort of funding to support charity.
We have, very many years ago, Dorset Council did used to provide some funding for us, but the funding, and that used to come from things like the Healthy Schools budget. But over recent years, I mean, we will always try to seek funding wherever we can, but we have not been successful in securing funding from Dorset Council because a lot of their budgets have been cut. So if there is an opportunity and anybody knows of an opportunity, please let us know, because we will pursue that. But we've had more success in recent years in seeking funding from parish, town, borough, when they were borough, or direct from councillors in some of the areas that we work in.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chairman. I think my question is similar to the one that I had for Raj. We have 3 schools named there. They're the ones that you're approaching for this term, and I understand that. But how do you choose your schools? Are you sure that those are the schools that are most in need of your support and help, the curriculum? And what's the information you use to make those decisions?
We give every school the opportunity to work with us, because schools do have to pay a proportion of the cost. So the schools do have to pay a certain proportion of the cost for us to go in. So we offer our services to every single school. And in terms of what life education, the children that we deliver our workshops to are very young. So the way that life education works, every child is vulnerable, when they're very young, because whether they come from a wealthy background or a poorer background, they are susceptible to all of those risky behaviours. They can smoke, they can drink, they can take drugs. I mean, the children that come from wealthier families might have more funds to be able to buy some of the, in later life, the drugs or whatever. So the way life education works is that we try to give every child, help every child have that that basic understanding, so that when they grow up, they can make healthy choices for themselves. So it's not, we don't target any particular school. We offer our services to all schools, and in some, for some schools we do manage to secure additional funding if there are local funders who will give us more funding, so then we charge the schools less.
But that still means that those schools that can least afford it, that might be in some of those areas where they have less support from parents associations and things like that, are less likely to be able to get your services into them. And that I worry about.
Well, it's a bit like a previous question. If we had a lot more funding, then we could go into, we could give it away to schools, but that doesn't happen. It does happen in one town in our area, that the community has got together
And they totally fund visits at every single school, which is amazing, and we would love to be able to do that everywhere, but it's not always possible.
Thank you. Councillor Hope, one more go.
Yeah, Chair, I'm actually looking to make a recommendation here and
I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
Before you do that.
that's all right. Should I go first?
Yes, please. Do you know, I've got two questions. Can you just explain, given that I've done some research on Coram, what the relationship is between you and Coram, because they are commercial?
No.
They're not.
Coram is actually the oldest children's charity in this country. So it's over 350 years old. So we are part of so Life Education is part of the Coram family of children's charities. But Life Education Wessex and Thames Valley, we are a completely independent charity, but we deliver, so the workshops that we deliver and the resources that we provide into schools are, we are licensed to Coram Life Education to deliver the workshops, so that, because the workshops have to be national, so they have to be they're mapped to the Ofsted national curriculum and everything, so there have to be certain standards. So we are a completely independent delivery partner of the Coram Life Education.
And do you receive funding from them?
No, we are completely self-funded.
Yeah, their accounts, I mean, they're quite a big organisation.
They are a big organisation, but we are completely independent. So we have to be completely financially independent.
That's answered my question. The second one really is not really a question. It's just my same question about one of the previous grant applications, which is my worry about this application is that we're replacing. We're not responsible for education in Weymouth or indeed Dorset.
No.
Dorset Council are. That is the council,
Yep.
the principal council, and I feel like you should go back banging on the door really hard, because we're not supposed to replace what they've taken away. That's not what we're here for. I appreciate that it's for Weymouth and Weymouth children, and it is needed.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if anybody knows how we can batter down that door, please let us know, because it's not for want of trying over the years. In the very beginning, when I was first involved with Life Education, we did used to get some funding from Dorset County Council, but and when there is a grant that we can apply to, we will. We apply to anything that's available.
there's 4 Dorset councillors in the room, so
Okay,
one on your table. Councillor Dickinson, final word.
Thanks, Chair. Can you just explain that it's £5,400 for 10 days? That's £540 a day. How is that actually made up?
Well, it's an average cost per day that we work out based on our expenditure divided by the number of days that we're in school. So that's how we roughly break down the cost, so that we charge the schools a proportion of it, and then for every day we're in a school, we also then apply for a shortfall. So that's how we roughly work it out.
And obviously the work you do is extremely valuable, and it should be available to all children, because the problems that they're subject to, same for all children. I'm just struggling with the fact that this is really core curriculum activity, and I find it difficult to understand why this is just a project. And it should be, you are going into actually all schools, or trying to, but we seem to be singling out these 3 schools as being something different.
Well,
you see where I'm coming from? It
yeah.
seems to me that really what this is core work that you do as far as life education is concerned, rather than it being a specific project for these 3 schools.
Well, in terms of the grant application, you have to kind of base your application on some things. So these were 3. So at the time that the application was submitted, these were the 3 schools that we've got coming up that would be taking place after you'd had a meeting. Obviously now one of them has actually another one of those visits has gone. But like Ryan said, we will be hopefully visiting more Weymouth schools later on in the year. So yes, I mean, our project is we are visiting schools all the time. You know, we are visiting schools all the time, but in order to be able to apply for a grant, we have to base it on something. So, you know, like Ryan said, I mean, if you know, it's like if this town where we have fully funded, if all of the organisations in the town can get together, we'd love to go to every school, but it's just not, you know, it's not feasible really in many places.
Thank you, Jeanette. Councillor Weller, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Hope to propose and so on.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I do know how great it is, and the fact that Ryan still remembers the giraffe is testament to the impact that it has on young people. And
Look what happened to him.
Exactly. I think it's really helpful that sometimes somebody other than the teacher that you're seeing every day is delivering that message, because it has a greater impact. And I've seen that happen. I was involved with conifers for some time, and children really look forward to it. So I will support it, but I am uncomfortable insofar as far as anything else. White Teachers Federation is an academy, and we all know academies have so much more funding than you know, St Nicholas and St Lawrence, for example. And I don't think, like Councillor Nicholas and others have said, this money shouldn't really be coming from us. I would not want to deprive our children because we're not prepared to fund it. But I think fundamentally it's wrong that your organisation is having to come to us for funding, because it's poor information, it's poor knowledge. We all acknowledge that it's really, really important for our children and for our young people. And you shouldn't be going cap in hand.
I couldn't agree more. Every child, it should be the right of every child in this country to have this, but
Yes.
until such time as it's funded by somebody.
It makes me uncomfortable. That doesn't mean I won't support it, but it makes me uncomfortable.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hope, would you like to bring us home, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Just to the Weller's point there, it's not just the giraffe I remember the 3D doll, sticking the body parts in the right place, and everything else. So, yeah, so I think it is good. But Councillor Weller has stole my thunder slightly, because I was going to point out that White Regis Federation is an academy who have booked the service for 6 days, which means they can afford a larger contribution to make sure that students at that school can. And I also listened to the question Councillor Harris asked around how do we know that the right schools are getting the right support, and that we're supporting this service getting into the right schools, which is why I'm actually going to propose that we do not make him a Waters grant application. Ensure that local schools are aware that this grant application exists, and through either their friend, PTA or governors or an organisation within the school that can apply for this funding, that each school can apply for this funding to substitute this activity should that school wish and need that support.
So if I heard you right, so you're asking schools to come along and apply for a grant so that they can then pay. Okay, well, it's been proposed, so
I'll second that.
as proposed by Councillor Hope, if everybody's understood that. So that means to defer this not to award the grant, but to put some sort of communication out in schools so that they can come back in and apply for a grant, which then they will use to pay for the service.
Just to clarify there, Chair, I'm not proposing to defer this application. I'm proposing we reject this application.
Reject us in favour of that.
And they're saying local schools funding is available should they wish to book the service.
Seconded by Councillor Harris. I'll take a couple of questions on this. Councillor Dickinson.
If we are proposing that, isn't the really, it shouldn't be for schools to go to Dorset Council for this, because they're really responsible for education, and they're responsible for curriculum. And whilst I support this, I again, is it the town councils that to pay for this when the schools are responsible for the Dorset Council? And if they turn this down, or they turn them down, then perhaps it says a lot about what they feel about the service.
Well, it has been proposed, and if you feel that way, and I'm possibly to agree with that view, then vote against it. But Councillor Legg, last point, then I'm going to go to the vote.
I'll do all the time, isn't he? I get farther away from him, because I disagree with him. I do understand, I have these reservations as well about education and the fact that some schools in here have better funding than others. And it doesn't seem to sympathise with those that are more hard up. And I would have liked to have seen that in there, so that typically academies, not everyone necessarily, but typically they would not be helped in the same way when other schools need this help as well. But I do think that this project will be very useful to the children that it applies to. And I would hate to say that we will not support this particular application. So what I'm going to do is oppose this rejection motion. But I will then, if the opposition goes through, I will then propose that we grant this, subject to the fact that it is noted that this sort of thing has reservations and we will not support a similar application in the future.
Okay. So back to the amendments that Councillor Hope proposed and Councillor Harris seconded. All those. Okay. It's a straight proposal, it's a rejection and straight proposal, thank you. So we've got a proposal by Councillor Hope.
All right, so
The proposal is to promote Weymouth Town Council grant stream to individual schools, PTAs, to apply for their own funding to support these activities. So you could have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 schools rather than this organisation, so that they would then take part of the money that we grant them and use it to buy those services, which is what an academy does basically. They get the money and then they pay for the services, not for us.
Can I also point out that's more bureaucratic?
Yes,
long
it
way.
is, yeah. Okay. You could.
If I could just offer a point of clarity, just on the proposals, just to make it clear, the reason PTAs has been added is because I'm not convinced that the council could directly fund schools. Town and parish councils are not able to fund schools for curriculum delivery. So that is a bit of a grey area, and the way we can look to fund something like this was if it was provided by the PTA or a third party organisation.
Which is
Okay.
what I was here now. Yes. Okay. So we have a proposal from Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Harris. All those in favour?
We have 1, 2, 3.
All those against?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Any abstentions?
Shouldn't be.
That motion falls.
Can I propose my motion with that
You
caveat?
can propose an amendment to the motion, to the
No,
original.
no, I propose what's up there,
Okay.
but please be aware that we don't like it particularly and don't want something similar in the future.
So you're proposing the original 2,115?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. A seconder for Councillor Legg's proposal is Councillor Huckle. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All those against?
1, 2,
Any abstentions?
2.
Congratulations, Jeanette.
Thank
If
you.
I may, congratulations, if I may, just one piece of advice, which is, I think the most contentious, other than we're replacing the education authority and support this. One thing that would really help is if we had some sort of process. I know you asked all schools, but there's a sort of need in my head that which of the schools, because I don't know which school, I'm sure everybody here doesn't. We could really do some intelligence about which schools really do need this work, and that would help the ward principals. I don't know how you do that.
Well,
If it comes forward again.
I think it goes back to really what we said is because we're dealing with children who are so young, it's like the ethos of life education is that every child is vulnerable at that very young age,
Yes.
because they don't, you know, every child, you know,
The schools must have some intelligence about every time.
yes, but it's not, it's not necessarily all of the children. There are some children in every school,
Yes.
which is the, you know,
Okay.
the difficult
I'll
thing.
shut.
I mean, you could say that there are certain areas within the town
Yes.
that are deemed to be more deprived.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris.
It's going back to using the resources that are already here. The lag would know where children with one parent families, children that are struggling are more prevalent than in other schools. They could give you that information so that you could target the right people or the most in need first. Everybody needs it. Don't you agree with that? I'd love to see you in every school, but let's ensure that we're targeting the ones that most need it first. And with our money.
Notwithstanding, congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, and we will be approaching a lot of other Weymouth schools, and we won't be coming back to you obviously for more funding. So it will be spread out amongst all of the schools that we do visit in Weymouth. Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
Chair, can I propose that we make some sort of formal agreement that we as a town council go to Dorset Council to find out how they can fund things like this. We know that the agenda from the government has been to dismantle local education authorities. I'm sympathetic to Councillor Hope's amendment there, but at the same time, we earlier supported steps, youth services, Dorset Council. We said at the last meeting, and we say it again tonight, we can't afford to step in. At the same time, we're responsible for deciding how local people's money is going to be spent, and we should support it.
What I'm going to say, Councillor Hamilton, is if I'll take responsibility for that. If you want to put your thoughts in email to me, I will think about how we approach my friends at Dorset Council. Okay.
I don't know whether this is useful information, but I think the government's plans are that every school will become part of a MAT.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know, and it's gathering pace. So soon everything will be part of that.
Dorset Council have a neutral policy on county trust fund.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll catch up with you later, Lucy, on that.
Thank you.
Right, yes. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 8, which is the external audit report. This will be introduced by Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Not too much to say on this, but it is excellent news that once again we have passed our external audit with PFK Littlejohn. No advisory notes and no questions were asked, and I think that reflects the standard of information return that we put up for both internal and external audit. And just my ongoing thanks to Ian Mill, who looks after the finance and business side, and his team, who do an excellent job in ensuring we all, both as officers and councillors, have the information to hand. But really good news, we have a clear audit report, and the recommendation is just that it's noted, Chair. There's no formal action needed.
Yes, thank you. The copy of the report whether is with the pack. Yes, councillor.
Can we just congratulate staff concerned, because you know, they get a blank bit of paper for an auditor, takes a bit of doing. They normally like to write a few words, don't they? To justify the next point. So yeah, congratulations.
Yes, very good. That's the 3rd year in a row I think we've got clean it out without any majors. So yes, for a new council, we're on sound financial footing with all procedures. Well done, Ian. On his sunbed somewhere. Right. Item 9, again introduced by Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Continuing the theme on external audits, the Smaller Authorities Audit Appointment Group collectively bargain and tender for the external audit for parish and town councils. This happens on a 5-yearly basis. The next appointing period runs from 22-23 until 26-27. Bearing in mind with audit, we're always a year behind, we're in front, depending on your perspective. Each time the provision is re-tendered, town and parish councils are given the option of opting out. If you care to read through the report, you'll see numerous reasons why opting out is not the preferred option. It's a massive procurement piece of work, a huge tender process, to which we would have to set up our own finance board. Staying within the process means that we benefit from economies of scale. The hard work of the tendering, the procurement for this specialist financial role is done for us. And it also means that being within the regime with other town and parish councils, there is some parity of offer and some assurance that we're all being judged by the same criteria. So the recommendation in front of you, Chair, is to not opt out of the SAAA.
Councillor Nick. Followed by Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Reading this, when I read it before the meeting, to me it was a no-brainer. I don't know what the choice is in here for, really. I couldn't see the advantage of it. But can you tell me how many authorities in proportion that are available to do this? How many of them actually opt out, do you know?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not aware of any councils that have opted out. And the reason it comes before you is because it is a council decision. The council is given the option to opt out. So every 5 years, we bring it in front of you just to confirm that as a council, we're happy to stay within the audit regime. But I'm not aware of any councils that have opted out.
Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just go to proposals, please? Chair?
You can. Seconded by Councillor Hope. All those in favour? Staying in? Brilliant. Thank you. So, item 10, budget working group. So, those of you who've been on finance before will recollect that this time of the year, starting in October, we start to put together the budget for next year. Now, you all know the current restraints that we're working under, so it's likely to be the toughest year. I'm just looking at the half-year outturn for this year at the moment. It's tough, and next year is going to be tougher given the inflationary pressures. So the budget working group probably will look at the second half of the year and proposals for you to vote on for next year. So it's going to be a fair bit of work between end of October and November into December to prepare the budget. So I'm aware that people have been on it before, and I've had one nomination so far for this group. It's normally 4 councillors, myself and 3 others, sorry, just to talk through with the budget holders what they're going to need for next year, and then we bring together those costs and put together a preset proposal for you to vote on. So anybody that is interested, I'll take any questions. I'm aware of Councillor Watley's interest, but if anybody else has got a burning desire to sit in a room with the 4 of us.
Do you need a nomination, Chair? Because I like to nominate Richard Dickinson.
I'm not going to be as formal as that. Richard's been on it before. He knows the way we work. He makes a valuable contribution from that point of view. So we'll try and get some political balance, but it's not absolutely necessary because we're all trying to work to the same aim. So I'll take Councillor Nicholson as a nomination. Anybody else particularly want to be on it who hasn't been on it before? Or
Did I see you wanting to be on it, Colin?
Well, I've been on it, you know, I might have arrested if somebody else wants to continue, but I'll be happy to stay there if necessary.
Councillor Hamilton.
I'm interested on being on it again.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want you to on 5's not going to make a difference to me in terms of both Lucy. You, Lucy, so that's Councillor Hamilton, you, Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Watley, myself, prior to that, can I have a bit of discussion about, if you've got any, and the rest of the members have got any queries about the budget or things that you want, then speak to those people and they can bring those points. I'll write to you all with some dates once Ian gets back. And we'll sit around and with budget holders and. Okay, so the 5 names are Councillor Watley, Councillor Nickinson, Councillor Huckle, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Gray. Can I have a proposer for those? Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Dickinson. All those in favour?
Well, that's unanimous, Chair. Thank you very much.
Item moving on, 8:10. Revised financial regulations, item 11, introduced by the town clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall that we already have a set of financial regulations with a scheme of delegation in it. This is based on the model financial regulations by now, the National Association of Local Councils, and we look at them at least on an annual basis to make sure that they remain fit for purpose. The element of financial regs that has come before you today is the scheme of delegation. Nothing has changed in that scheme of delegation except names and job titles. So the update is to reflect changes in the staffing establishment, so you're aware who has got which delegations. The amounts remain the same and the actual scheme and process of delegation remains the same, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, town clerk. Councillor Nickinson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm slightly confused about this in terms of the 3 town clerks that are nominated on here, who seem to be able to authorise any expenditures within budgets approved by full council. To me, that seems to be a huge onus on them, quite a substantial responsibility. Should we not be setting some limits on this? Because if I read it rightly, what it means is that those 3 personnel can basically spend anything within budget without reference to council. Is that how I read it?
Except, yes, as long as it's within the revenue budget, there are some restrictions on reserves. So there are only certain reserves that they can spend. There are some that have to come before council, but those regulations have been in force for the last 3.5 years. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Just to say that as officers listed within the scheme of delegations, we are all bound by financial regulations, which gives us further limits, particularly around procurement, around tendering, about ensuring best values. But really, that's part of the responsibility that you pay your officers for. Members agree the budget and set those limits on each of the budget codes, and it's then over to the officers to appropriately spend those budgets within financial regulations within the scheme of delegation. So we don't go outside of the budget that you agree each December for us.
Yeah, thank you. I understand that, but essentially within any budget, and the budget overall budget is what, 4.7 million. And within that, obviously, we have areas of budget expenditure that make up that. But it seems that there's essentially there is possibly no accountability to full council on something, because essentially you could go and spend up to that budget, and there's some substantial budgets within there. I just feel that for your safety, if you like, there should be some sort of limit in there, which if it goes over, that the council are entitled to question that, because it seems very, very onerous that you can just spend anything within budget. You know, I don't wish to stand personal, but in terms of, of you officers, you effectively can spend the whole of the budget without coming back to council.
Yes, yes.
I could ask the assistant town clerk to speak, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
So within financial regulations, there's limits on what we can spend. So anything over 50k has to go through the procurement process, and it has to come back to
full council sign off. So for example, even putting out to tender for procurement for a lease or license, and it was going to be over that license period over a certain amount of money, like over 100K, we have to bring it back. So there are financial.
Could we, Chair, then just amend this document so that it actually incorporates those words, so that, you know, it's clear what, obviously, what your responsibilities are within that. It was just making clear that it sounds.
If I could, Chair, I'm happy to add something in as a bullet point and a clarification at the top, but this is Annex A of the financial regulations, so as part of the financial regulations that governs that expenditure that the Assistant Town Clerk has just spoken about. So this isn't a standalone document, it is read, and I've just popped it up on the screen, and I was just going to see if I could very quickly.
It's
find
quite
relevant.
complex, there's a lot in it. The other is, I'll come to you in a minute, Councillor, sorry, is it doesn't mean that the town clerk can spend 4.3 million on anything. There's a separate budget line for each expenditure code. So within events, you know, the budget is 100. That's what's an individual code that is regulated, that's the right word, of which we, so you, members, set the budgets for. Yes, Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Thank you, Councillor Nicholson, for your vigilance. I think it's a great question. On the bottom half of the page, it says it's an expressed requirement of this protocol that all officers abide by the following. And then there's a really helpful list. The first item is
credit card limit is for the 3 town clerk, deputy town clerk and assistant. What is their credit card limit?
We think it's 1,000, but I would have to check with finance staff when we use it so rarely. I'm feeling it's 1,000, but I need to check that with finance staff.
Only 1,000.
Only 1,000, yeah.
Which
We do use the credit card incredibly rarely. I think for stamps it comes in particularly handy. And orders on Amazon as well.
stamps are expensive these days.
Yeah.
We don't spend £1,000 on stamps before that sets the hair running, but we don't use that.
I think Councillor Hickton reminds us that we've just got a gold standard audit saying that we abide by all the regulations. So we do get that, and there has to be an element of members set the budget, officers spend the budget and deliver the services. So there is an element of trust there, but they are, in my view, regulated as it is. So I'm pretty close to the numbers, so I can see what's being spent and what's not being spent. Councillor Nick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful for this discussion because it's given me some considerable reassurance that what we've got works.
Yes.
And it's satisfying, and I feel it's difficult to do anything other than what's laid down in all these regulations and laid down in our budget that we approve every year. I just feel that what might be coming forward is adding belt and braces together. And that normally means, again, there's more bureaucracy. I'm fighting bureaucracy tonight. So I'm happy with what we've got, and I should just be voting for the motion as is.
Just a final reminder, well, one amendment I hopefully it's been agreed. If you see under the operations end there, it's not up there. You can go there, I'll just show you. I mean, the wording just needs to be tightened up a little bit, and I'll.
This is the older version.
Yeah, so
This is the older.
if you can see the operations there, and if you can see operations manager and then property manager, resort manager, where the limits are, I just want added into those limits within budget. Because it doesn't expressly say that. That's the only thing. And we'd agree with that, but that's a minor change. I'd also remind members that we have 13 quarters of below budget or on budget performance from these officers. So that doesn't come about through not hard work and diligent financial. You know, we can always do better, but okay. So I forgot what the
agree this, but we've had extra votes.
yes, it's just within budget. That's all. I don't think we need to-
Revised scheme,
Yes,
would be recommended to full council, is happy with the full council
yes,
with the additions discussed.
yes. So the recommendation is that
So, Chair, can I just, the only thing I would say is £1,000 on the credit card enough, bearing in mind that there might be an emergency.
we'll take that away as an action. Brad, could you make a note of that? I'll take that away as an action and how much is the flight to now? Well, take that away as a learning. If it needs to be upped, I'm sure, you know.
You ought to know the flights to Turkey.
I do. They're expensive. So the recommendation is that the committee recommends to full council revised scheme of delegation of financial responsibilities to spending officers with the amendments, the minor word changes that we've agreed. And just emphasising that this is part of the full financial regulations that the officers are subjected to. Proposed by Councillor Nicholson, seconded by Councillor Frost. All those in favour? Oh, it's the rock and roll world of dispensation policy. Item number 12. Introduced by the town clerk.
Thank you, Chair. I won't go through the policy as usual. I know you will all have read it, but this forms part of our responsibility under the Localism Act 2011. So a member or co-opted member, currently we do have no co-opted councillors, you're all elected members, who has a disclosable pecuniary interest in a matter that is under consideration by a committee or full council, may not participate in the consideration of that matter unless they have first obtained a dispensation from the relevant authority. With the changes in that Act, Weymouth Town Council is now the relevant authority. It doesn't fall to Dorset. But I'm policy that's in front of you now is complete. That just makes sure we have a record of all relevant information required. And Annex 2 is a flowchart on the process of debt. We managed to redraw that entire flowchart, so we have it in the form we could include within the policy. So thank you for that. Freya, I know that wasn't to draw your attention to, is that halfway down on page 2, where it says that it is possible that the town council would like to express support for any planning application made in its own name, but the councillors may feel that this is an item under the old framework where they would have declared a prejudicial interest. So what I've included here is that the council therefore grants a dispensation for the period up to the next full council elections in 2024, permitting any member from Weymouth Town Council or landowner is Weymouth Town Council. And that is with regard to our own planning and licensing or reject them, it's a vote on our comments on planning applications that are in the town council's name. Other than that, the policy is a matter of process for use in the future, Chair. Thank you.
Any questions from members? Can I have a proposer then? Councillor Harris proposed. Councillor Frost seconded. All those in favour of the policy? Unanimous. Thank you very much, members. I have forgot to say, for the future, that item 13 could have been moved up the agenda because we should have moved after the grant applications. I think Luke is here as well, so. I thank both of you for staying, so.
Yeah, thank you very much. Particular research undertaken by officers to regards potential to introduce property. Holiday and also submitted a pre-planning application. The results of the background work are summarised in this report and should enable members any of the existing 12 persons on site in return for a fee paid to the council. It is also requested that the committee give delegated authority to the town clerk to agree the details of the lease or the licence to be offered to the market via a competitive process. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'm sure this will be some debate. We'll go, any questions from the members so far? Yes. I'll take members first and I'll go to Councillor Wakeling.
Sorry, just for clarification, is this not going to come back to council? I mean, we're giving the town clerk obviously the authority, but we not have a further discussion on this before.
Before we agree a contract, you mean?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes, it can come back to the members.
I think bothered by what you're saying is if the officers went away, we found a partner, they put together a proposal, you'd like to see it come back.
Well,
to find the terms.
I just don't know what other members feel on this, but somebody should or not.
We'll come back to it. Other members, Councillor Wake.
The last 3 years, and this I was expecting this to come to the income group to make a recommendation. It seems to have skipped as an observation. The further thing which had it come through the working group, I might have asked to put in here is some figures, because I don't think there is a single amount in it. Really quite important. Advertising, I think it is the future. I would like to know what the current advertising sites are worth individually and what the offer is and what our minimum offer we might accept might be per site. I was looking at our poster sales list, I don't know what you quite call it, it's on the website. Currently we're selling posters for £224 plus VAT each, the large ones. And I walked the dog this evening, there's at least £2,000 worth of posters on display at the moment. So in order for members to make an informed decision here, I'd like to see what the current situation is, what the offer proposed is, what its value is, what the return would be. And the risk, different levels of investment, different levels of return. And I think as members, I'm not on your committee, but if I were, I would really like to be able to judge the different offers, what risk was involved, what investment was involved, and what return it might be. And I do appreciate advertising is a fickle game. So I feel, I don't know if members on the committee agree with me, but reading the report, I'm disappointed that information is not present. And I'm not envious of having to make a decision on it because I'd struggle to make a decision based on the report presented because that information is missing. So I would like to see I don't know whether you'd like to send it back to the working group to have some more discussions and evaluate the choices. But no, to me, it's very difficult to make a decision based on the information presented because there isn't a single figure in it, financial.
Councillor Harris.
The other question that I've got on this is, we've got in section recommendation about what happens if we've got what, 10 drums, 12 drums. So somebody comes along and says, I'd like to have those 5. Somebody else comes along and says, I'd like to have those 3. Somebody else comes along and says, I want 2 of those and 1 of them. You know, so it seems that it could get confusing as to what we can actually conclude from the bids that come in from operators if we leave it this way.
Well, I think we've spoken to 2 providers. I think they would be interested in the ones that gain the largest footfall, which are probably the ones where the beach toilets are. So I don't think there'll be take up of some of the tertiary ones that are available. I think Tony was thinking a single provider, certainly at the I don't think you'll get a provider to take all 12. I'm thinking maybe 2, 3, but because the capital investments is the other big issue. You're talking depending on power and the TV and the obviously you're probably talking they've got to pay for planning as well. So there's a power plan. I'm pretty sure there's planning needed for change of use. I think what we're highlighting is probably quite a lot of unanswered questions, but we've got what provider and then what deal we can do with that provider before Tony can come back to some numbers. I think that's what Councillor Nicholson was sort of saying. Let's get a provider in. Let's find out what numbers we can put together, and then compare that. Ironically, in the last, certainly since I've been involved the last 3 years, this is the best year we've had for drums. It's not great, but it's better than it has been in the previous 2 years, and we certainly want to do that. But I think there are a lot of teams. And we're taking a slice for financial proposals.
Thank you. I'm really disappointed in this. I'm really loath to say go back to the drawing board because it's been on the drawing board for 3 years. And the drawing board must be falling over by now. But if we carry on as this is all right, it doesn't give us enough information. It's not. This isn't fit for purpose. But if we don't get on with something, we're going to be next. I'm really troubled by that. No,
It's on the public pages.
It's on the website. Unfortunately, it was missed off the email that was originally sent.
So what I think I'm hearing is, rather than push it back to income generation and go back through them again, can we entrust Tony to go away, find a partner and bring back a financial proposal that we can compare with what we get as income from the drums, that then we can vote on it.
Could you make that a partner or partners?
Yes, yeah. Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think Is it possible in a timescale to get something for even the next meeting to presentation?
Yes,
We have to go through a procurement process. If you're looking at a 5 to 7 year contract, it gives you a significant value. So we have to draw up a spec and go out to the market and give them sufficient time to respond. So I'm not sure we're ready for the next committee.
and that's banned by our financial regulations. It has to go to procurement. But if you look at the recommendations, the committee instructs officers to proceed with the offer via competitive process. I think the answer to that is yes, we'd like to do that. Leasehold license with provision of digital advertising on the current drums along the seafront, number to be agreed at some point, depending on what they want, because they've got to want it. I'll come to you in a minute, Councillor. That the lease or license referred to is recommended offer in the following way. I think as Councillor Watkins said, the offer, if that's the right word, whatever the structure is, whether it's capitalised or we just take a revenue slice or whatever, I think the options could be in the paper once you've chosen a partner, rather than us try and do it here and now, because we're trying to vote on something that we can't vote on because we don't know the numbers. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to echo, I think other members' comments in the room, disappointed that this project's not moved forward because Appendix H is an extract of a previous committee agenda.
Yes.
And we seem to be here asking for the same things to move forward on a recommendation that was approved by this committee previously. But what I'm now slightly concerned about is the knee-jerk reaction from this committee to push forward at this haste. And whilst I agree it's important we have these in place as soon as possible and before the next summer season here in Weymouth, I'm concerned that a rush may cause some real problems for Weymouth Town Council, because I think we also need to be thinking, as well as the getting the best value on these sites, we need to have some control over the content of what's being advertised, and to go out and instruct an officer now to say, go out and get competitive money, who's going to offer us the most of the pitches, without the full information about the restrictions that we put on those marketers. I think we could end up some problem. And hearing the reservations from the fair, the chair of the Generation Income group, sorry, not the chair, but a member from the Generation Income group, I think it needs to go back there. And I just think it needs some traction here by the right officers to make sure we're getting the right thing delivered.
On the exclusion list or control of the content, with that we debated that for a long time, because I think it was Councillor Lambert originally said that, we don't really want to be advertising things like McDonald's and Adlight, I think it was Adlight that we had in, did say that we could specify on their list who we allowed them to, or we could exclude certain companies like, I don't know, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, whoever we wanted, adult content, that sort of thing. So that could be in the contract. That's written into the contract. So there is an element of control that officers will have over that. If you wanted to go back to income generation on that, I'll guide you by what members want.
I think the other thing, Chair, as well, is when we have spaces in the drums, we quite often to allow charitable organisations to advertise their events, things like that. Is this all in agreement? And I think if we start tying, although in a display or a company moment saying we can work with some limitations that you put in place, what happens is once the agreement's in place, they believe those limitations are too great and start saying, well no.
Well, again, I think Adelaide was suggesting that we could have control over a percentage of the content for ourselves, which we then could give to transport organisations. So that was in the contract. I think what I'm hearing is that we send Tony away to get a much more robust report. It can go to income generation before it comes back here, but it does need to come back here, certainly for us from a financial point of view, to be able to vote on it. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you. If I can just answer a couple of points. As I recall, you could exclude adverts by sector. They basically had a checkbox, you could untick them. And I think we generally said we didn't want payday loans and we didn't want betting ads.
Fast food.
Well, they said then if you excluded fast food, you basically excluded 3/4 of the revenue. That's the problem. If you go national, that is the problem. What we were trying to find a way to have more local ads for things like Swanage Railway, the No, all the local stuff that currently use our poster drums. There is a lot of balancing to do, and you have to. I mean, you are selling yourself to the devil if you go to maximum revenue. That's the short answer with it. And I don't think we weren't proposing. I recall last time it was at this committee, and I was a member of this committee, we actually did resolve to preemptively apply for planning permission, which would then mean if we did agree a contract in 6 months' time, we could go, actually, we've already got planning permission, off you go. And that could potentially save 3 months in the process. So I don't know whether members would like to, although they want to improve reports, suggest that the planning applications put in. And also there is, I think we've established there is electricity at each site, but no meters yet. So it could be another thing to pre-order the meters to be installed. So that if say by January there was a position to make a decision, things could move very much quicker with a little bit of preparation work.
I'm going to come back to Tony first.
To say with planning, we have to apply for planning permission on all 12 sites, but also we need to be much more specific as to the exact design of the encapsulator around the screens, because that's probably the most that they're most concerned about is the look and the feel. So we have to personally ourselves as officers determine the look and the design of the drums, of the screens.
The ones we saw from Adelaide were sort of generic, weren't they? You know, we need to personalise those. Okay, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just concerned about this question of excluding certain categories, and I agree that in the payday loan. I don't think it's our place as a council to be the nanny state on deciding whether people want to eat McDonald's or Burger King or anything else. But obviously, a lot of people enjoy these things. There's nothing illegal about it. We might not like it, and we might agree with it, but I don't think it's our place to play a nanny state and decide what people should eat, frankly. And if this says it's going to exclude 3/4 of the market, then we might as well not bother, quite honestly, because we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. I don't like McDonald's very much, but a lot of people do. A lot of people like fast food, they like fish and chips, they like all the rest of it. So I certainly wouldn't be in favour of trying to exclude something like that, which is enjoyed by many people who could bring in substantial revenue to this council.
Yeah, I think it's sort of slight misrepresentation of the discussion we had, which we were trying to do it local. So we were trying to promote, we're trying to find a balance of local businesses, so local fish and chips versus a national contract. That's what we were trying to do. And then he came up and said, well, you could exclude them if you wanted to. So we didn't discuss it. It was something that he offered, but we'll take your point and we would discuss that if it came back.
To be fair, I mean, many McDonald's actually are local businesses, they're franchise.
Yes, yeah.
We have local people who run them, and I think it has a national name, doesn't mean we should exclude it, Chair.
Yeah, 1 second. Councillor Dickinson.
Are the drums costing us money at the moment, or do we make money from them?
There are two do you want me to? Yeah, there are two substantive costs to the drums. One is we pay rates, £9,000 a year, and the second is maintenance. So probably 3. Now we do make more than, well, we haven't done in previous years. This year we're going to make more than that.
There is also staff time, but it's not huge in terms of marketing and the sale of installing them. But yeah, the income, the trading income is about 20,000, and so you're left about between 12 and 15 from that in terms of total cost and staff time.
And some of them are getting to a state now where you can't lock them properly and they're rusting, and we have to do something in the next few years. Councillor.
Thank you very much. It's just been on something Councillor Weymouth said. Obviously, I understand that there may be issues on applying now for planning permission based on they're more interested in the design and the look and feel of these machines rather than the situation of them. Just the other points though around some of the other preempt work that we could do, Councillor Weymouth said, could that be met within existing budgets? If so, I'd be happy to say, yes, let's get on and do it. But if it can't be met within existing budgets, I again need the information before we make that decision.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the point that Richard was making shows again that we need sort of a further report, not just on the financial side of things, but there will be a debate as to what can go on these advertising boards or the digital displays. We've had a good discussion in the income generation group about that, but it's never come to the council to put their points of view on what goes in and what can't go in, if anything. You know, and that would be a debate, and there will be differences of opinion. But we ought to have that debate, and we've got to find time within the process to get that debate in.
So, okay, thank you. I think Tony needs a clear way forward. I don't feel this report is ready to be voted on in any way, shape. So I'm going to suggest as the chair that we do two things. We defer this item, we don't vote on it, but we agree some words that Tony can go forward with, like, do we want him to apply for planning in all 12 years? Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute, but I think Tony needs a way forward to move this forward. We either vote on this or we defer it and give Tony a very clear steer about things that we want him to go away and do, i.e. get a partner in, find out what terms we can get, the setup costs, etc.
Sorry, Chair, the trouble with this is that Councillor Harris suggested that we come back for a debate on what can go, what cannot go on these sides. I don't see how Tony can move forward on this. If suddenly we're going to vote, we can't have McDonald's, we can't have this, because if that's going to take 3/4 of the income, then how can he go forward with the partner and say, what's the point? And when you could well be excluded from having certain things on that you're not finishing those.
I think it's the degree of difficulty in finding the content. It's easy to get national contracts. It might take us a lot. I mean, there are, as Tony has proved with the current list of paper advertising drums, we have local businesses wanting to advertise. We're not. I don't think this policy will cover moving all 12 units to digital, so there'll still be some paper advertising, and we'll retain those customers. I think the other thing is. It probably means that we need an advertising policy so that we take the policy separate from this, so that we have a policy that says we do this, we don't do that. Once that policy is agreed, that's separate from Tony going away and doing some practical things to get this moving. Councillor Hope. Is it a new point?
It is a new point, and to try and move forward on this, because I know there's concerns about localising. For example, someone advertises currently in our drums is already advertising on these digital displays all the way down the M5.
Yeah.
So the local providers are already using display people. So
And the pavilion is also advertising its own digital content in the pavilion,
so
which they have to make.
I think, from my point of view, Chair, that our view of this committee probably hasn't changed in what we requested of the officers 12 months ago or so when this paper came forward, and that's to go out, come back to us with some possible providers that are interested in the site and the costs that they would want. And obviously, we understand there may be some fluctuation in those costs if there is any restrictions on content that the council wishes to be advertised.
Tony.
Our members asking us to go through a procurement process then. To get options that we may or may not agree on. Just thinking about what the market might think about that.
Councillor.
Sorry, it's my understanding we're not procuring anything here. We have sites to list. And what we're instructing officers, and my understanding is, Chair, I may be totally wrong, is we're going out saying, go and get us the best deal for these sites. So go and speak. Yeah, which is what we sort of agreed previously. So go away, go and get us the best sites. What would you offer us in display? You know, can we still have the display boards blue with Weymouth Town Council logos on? Yes. Yeah, this is what we need to know.
It's A and B, including information in C, but instead of doing myself
Yes. that
for a
would-
discussion
Right.
agreement, so it's A, B and C.
So, Tony, A, B and C. So we ask you to go away. Not you go away. I think picking up on Councillor Nicholson's point, we do want it to come back here, including all the numbers. But I'd like to add an E as well, which is we start to put together and public policy separate, not wedded to this. So there are two things separate. So that's A, B, D, and E is now going to be draft advertising. That's what
I'm very happy with E. I'd like to have some sort of imperative on that. Get on with it. It will on what we do at the next meeting, so we need so it doesn't necessarily need to be within this, but it does need to be in structure in that our officers, and I guess I'm does start talking to choir and that get that
Yeah,
full
so
block,
pre-advertise.
pre-advertise.
Right. Excellent.
So, we do need to put our marker down on this, where, we really, whoever said it, we don't want to be jumping into this in a very hurry and regret at our leisure, but at the same time, we don't have the luxury of doing this at our leisure anymore.
So we've got some amendments up on the screen.
He's not there yet.
Okay, he's not there yet.
Advertising.
Draft advertising policy to be brought back to the next committee.
I think we should have a meeting before the next committee.
Yeah.
Special one.
Yeah. Yeah. The advertising policy will mean that we can debate whether we, what we have in content, which will then inform which will go back to full council for debate as well, because it's the procurement, this is going to be above the limit.
Bearing in mind, Chair, the frustration of the say next. I have more classes, apologies.
Before that.
I'm slightly concerned because of the value of the contract and the length, that means that it's going to be a super high value contract, which isn't going to mean change. I imagine, so that's a process from itself will take a period of time.
Different contracts.
Sorry, Chair, just clarity, the next, the item Supreme Court's the next F&G committee is the advertising policy.
Yes.
I'm referring back to the previous comment around the costs, the prices and the display boards. We might set a time that we want them to come back to this committee.
Okay. Charmaine, would you like to comment on?
Can I suggest we have update to next week, there's standard information I can update, and then at the next meeting, be able to provide you the schedule and program on how this would take really.
So Freya, the digital advertising proposal is going to be standing on small F&G meetings going forward. Councillor Wilkinson.
Actually, Chair, your suggestion isn't quite as silly as it might seem, because some of these sites are actually going to be a lot more valuable than others.
They are.
And maybe we should break this down into smaller
Yeah,
contracts.
I think my financial regulator, it's slightly tongue in cheek, because my financial regulation point of view would never get away with it. But totally cheap with it. But you're right, the two nearest to either side of the toilets, you don't need to be very aggressive to understand they'll be the most valuable. The one right at the other end, you probably wouldn't give that away.
But that-
Point of view.
Sorry, is that really when you say financial regulation, but I mean, isn't any contract can stand on its own, can't it? Just because they're all the same, doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're different sites on here. I mean,
Yeah, it would be a deliberate attempt to disaggregate to get below the regulation. I don't think that's, I'll take it under advisement, but I will certainly wouldn't put my. I do, but any football. Yeah. I'm still not clear about, to the next meeting, we will have, can everybody vote now? Large.
A to E.
Can we vote on it? Yes, I'm not telling, you're telling me how I'm going to vote.
No, we vote on it. Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Frosty.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Against?
I just had a question, Tony, about officer resource. Is it something that, given maybe the end of the game, i.e. it's a lot of money, I'm just want to find conversation about bringing some expertise. I'm saying it.
I think it needs to be considered as a project, and procurement also as a core
Yes.
project.
Okay.
So I think there's three elements to it. The procurement, which we've got capacity in the procurement team, but the opposite is a place there, so hopefully we have more capacity in that team. In next month. And the third is currently this week going live, marketing and communications officer, we've got a vacancy in that area now. For those who focus on marketing, so we can actually assist with selling sites once we've got them.
Yes, Tony.
Bit late now, but a point of clarification, obviously policy, because that's going to be part of the specification.
Yes. I'm sure you've got something to write and advertise, we can certainly find on. On Google. Well, Tony, just to reiterate, the members of the committee, we non-members, we want them paid for this time. We appreciate that this is on with it. Is that fair? That's fair. Thank you, members. Thank you all. Yeah. Will we go through that? Yes. Yeah,
There was 10-02.
Right. Good job, you were on council there. Item 14, information items. Tony, over to you.
Yes, I could just brief members that progress is being made with the review of Seafront cleansing. Some of the members of the working group are amongst us. We're having a discussion with the council about whether we can improve the environmental performance of it by introducing a new recycling bank, but also to address issues regarding the cost, which is likely to increase inflation. And whether there's issues we can do around specification
education in terms of the deployment. It's been a learning journey, and I think what happens to the waste that comes off the seafront and which part of the country it goes to.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we can actually add to that information report now because of the digital display of information yesterday. What was the day before? And that means that there are other options now for looking at the way in which that disposal of waste contract could be renegotiated with Dorset Council. So I think you said everything you said is correct. And we have learned this a lot, but there's even more now that we can do to try and get that contract not only working efficiently in terms of the way in which it works with Zeta, but equally by bringing the cost down by going digital in a lot more way.
Thank you. Councillor Winklin.
I think I may have asked this question several times before, but I'm still trying to get clarity on what actually happens to our waste at the moment. And I see in here and the update, 98% is repurposed. And then the remaining 70% is sent to produce energy. Is that 70% of the 98%?
Yeah.
Yeah. And does produce energy mean incineration?
Yeah.
So basically, near enough 70% of what goes in those bins is burned currently.
No. That's not the correct picture. The correct picture is that the waste that all goes in our recycling bins goes off to recycling.
Yes.
Having a proper commercial waste contract. One of the things that did come out from it was the fact that we were looking at the lids on the waste bins, which the public don't like lifting because they're quite heavy and dangerous. The proposal was that we would go, I think that turn go away and look at some different lids on those bins, which would have a slot in it, which the public would feel happy with putting stuff in there. That bin would be locked so that traders couldn't lift the lid and put trade waste in there.
Yeah, I did notice at Overmoyne that the bins on by the road there have got a stop lever that you can only just about get a can in there.
So that, I think that was going to solve one of the problems that we
set
with this.
We'll have a full debate when it comes back, but the big members of the committee are happy the progress is being made. This is a significant financial risk to us in terms of an 11% growth figure. So we do need to look at ways of lessening the financial impact. Say it like that. Okay. Actions from previous meetings I'm okay with, unless anybody's got anything. Just noting those. Timing of the CCTV for the march. Yeah, that's the new CCTV.
Yes, I'm happy to come in on that. I checked with the Parks and Open Spaces manager today. They have no update. We continue to chase Dorset Council for a resolution to this, but we are struggling to get permanent provision in place.
Who is it?
John New. That's who we're liaising with. There have been some issues regarding electricity supply and procurement, but we are keeping up the pressure, keeping up the questions, and hoping we can get this sorted soon.
Councillor
Just to say, you do have a number of Dorset councillors, and I think when you're having problems of this sort ongoing, it would be quite good for us to be informed, because perhaps we can put a little bit of pressure from our point of view as well.
Ken Buckin's team.
Yeah, myself and Councillor Taylor are involved in supporting Sarah Williams in pushing this stuff through.
Excellent. My point about the forward plan is to add in digital advertising to the F&G. Apart from that, I don't have anything else. Forward plan.
Item 615, sorry, we need to exclude, we need to bring them to a close and exclude the public.